So you both discussed what you like about your roles and working with customers. I'm curious now what your favorite part of the engine is, and if you have a story behind that feeling. James, how about you?
With Rhapsody, I think because I came from being a customer, obviously I found it very intuitive. That's one of the things that I really, really like about the engine. It's so easy to teach someone, even non-programmers. It's so easy to teach someone like moving something from A to B and using the different functionality within Rhapsody to do things easily. I think that's the thing that I really like. It's intuitive and it's quite easy for people to pick up to do simple things, and then it's not so simple and restricted that people who really want to dig into it can do and do more complicated things the more and more they get into it. It's a bit cheesy, but I do love to see customers creating something new, and yeah, it is the smile on the faces when they realize how the different things they can do. It sounds so cheesy, but that's the way it is.
Sure. So Alex, how about you? Favorite part of the engine, and then is there a story behind how that came to be?
Yeah, so I have two favorite parts, and I've talked to James in a little bit that we have similar pieces and parts of our engine that allow us to do a significant amount of testing before we turn the engine and the interfaces on, and that is super duper helpful because we realize that when we create our logic and we turn it on, we're just guessing. Is it right? Did it work the way that we wanted it to work? But within our engines, we have the ability to load test messages, run a bunch of them through, look at the output, compare it, figure out like this is exactly what I wanted it to do, or no, this wasn't. Let me make a change before I turn this whole thing on and open the fire hose, right? So it gives us a lot of confidence that when during go live time and it's in the middle of the night when they turn on their EMR for the first time or they turn on this interface for the first time, that it's going to work. It's going to work the way that we planned it to because we've tested it properly. And there's so many little testing tools to make sure that we know what we're doing all along the way. And the second one is the undo button. That's my favorite just because I wish I had it on my life sometimes. I've gone down rabbit holes on logic to say, maybe if I do this, and maybe if I do this, and 10 steps later, I realized, no, all of it was wrong, and I could hit the undo button 10 times and get back to the right path as soon as possible. So I appreciate that in computing in general, but especially within our engine, when I go down the wrong path, I get that undo button.
James, do you feel Alex is being unfair there by naming two favorites and you only named one? Do you want it out the forum to provide your second favorite tool?
Well, it's very similar to what he's been saying. We have like a version control thing within Rhapsody where we can roll back. So it's kind of like an undo button. And then, as he said as well, testing, that's something that that has been added to Rhapsody in the last couple of iterations, and it's made a huge improvement.
So I'm going to hazard a guess that the tools that you guys both just mentioned will be a part of this next question, which is I'd like to know about the biggest project you've ever worked on, what made it so huge, what were the most tedious, most exciting, most frustrating, most rewarding aspects of that. So James, could you kick us off on that topic?
I've been involved in quite a few big projects, helping out on the not on the sidelines, but kind of piecemealing work as and when, because we all help and divvy together when there's large projects and work that is needed doing. But the biggest single project that I've kind of taken ownership, we had a customer come to us who wanted to do a migration. They were migrating from eGate into to Rhapsody, or they wanted to migrate to a new setup because the engine was being sunset. And they came to us originally and they said, we've got a very tight timeline. We've got 70 interfaces. It's complicated because there's lots of different systems. So there's XML, there's plain text, there's HL7. There's lots of order comms as well as standard ADTs. Can you do it? And we spent a couple of weeks helping them, working out exactly how long it was going to take. And we said that you've got an 18-month deadline. We think we can do it in the 18 months. As long as we move pretty quickly, we can get it done. Unfortunately, the technical guys, their hands were tied by the financial purse strings, and I think it was 3 months later they came back to us and said, we've got the money, can you still do the work? And we said, well, it's going to be tight now. But we can do it. Yeah, we can do it. We can bring, as I said, we can bring on more developers and help get the timeline down. Another month went by, and we started on the project. And yeah, it was a very short time for us to do it, but we divvied up. I was kind of the team lead on it, which was quite exciting as well. And we worked really well with the customer, and we were training the customer while we were doing the work so they could hit the ground running. And what actually happened was, towards the end, the customer was actually helping us do the configuration as well as us doing it. So they got to a point so quickly where they actually understood how it worked. They were using our integrations as an example, so they could help and build the workforce and cut their costs and cut their time down. And we made it on time, and it was brilliant. My first ever massive project that was kind of leading up, and it went really well. So that was a big one for me.
And you know, it was kind of you witnessing the evolution of your use of Rhapsody, because that's how you got started using the product.
Exactly, yeah. So I was originally a customer, and it's nice to try and you rather than the customer going, oh, that is something that sits in the corner and does the work, you get them involved and they realize how interesting it is. This particular customer, they were actually very, very good and technical. They'd written all this stuff in a very hard to understand engine, and they were relieved when they moved to Rhapsody, because they realized how much more powerful it was with lots of different functionality, and how much easier it was to use. So yeah, they're still a big customer of ours, and a lot of the team there are good friends of mine now. So
awesome. Alex, biggest project that you've worked on? What made it great, difficult, rewarding?
Yeah, so the largest project I worked on was, oh man, back in 2008. They reeled me into this nice project because I realized that they were taking me to Seattle, and it was the best part of the year to be in Seattle. And little did I know that the rest of the year it's nice and dreary the whole time. But they had me come out about 1 week out of every month for about a year or so. And they helped me convert 2 hospitals, just like James, from eGate to Corepoint. And so what would happen is we would teach them a little bit, we would train them, and then we would do interfaces alongside of them. We would do our own, we would do them. They would look and make sure that we had the logic correct, just like in their previous engine. And when that was done, it was we were all happy about it. But their larger organization that spanned about several states over there basically said, you know what, we're going to make an overall decision on what engine that you can use for the whole entire organization. So whatever it was that you had before, I'm sorry, we're going to go with Oracle Fusion, whatever that is. It's not a healthcare interface engine. It is just an engine in general, and you'd have to figure out the parsing yourself. And they said, thank you for all your help, but in about a year or so, we're going to, jump off of Corepoint. And we were sad about that. That was a little frustrating that we worked a couple of years on that, and it had to go away so quickly. And so I went on vacation, went to San Diego, watched a friend get married, and in the middle of my vacation, Sonal, my boss at that time, gave me a call, said, this customer needs our help right now because they're going live on Epic in about a week or 2 in terms of their first phase of testing, and they have nothing done in terms of interfaces. They could not get Oracle Fusion working. They need us there. Can you fly straight there instead of coming home? And I asked how the weather is in Texas, and she said it's about 100+ degrees. And I realized, you know what, I'm not gonna go back. I'm gonna go straight to Portland, help them out. And I met our CTO there. We trained up their team, because their team is much larger than the 2 small hospitals we first converted, but it's a team for the whole entire organization. So they had to learn how to get Corepoint up and running. We helped them out with that. Then the next week, we helped create several of their first interfaces and get them live on all of their interfaces for their first phase of testing with Epic. And they were so impressed that that is what their engine is now. And after a year or 2 more of training them, teaching them, doing more of their conversion interfaces, they started teaching their own teams. They started creating their own interfaces. They didn't need us at the go lives anymore. And They are by far our largest customer right now, and it's really nice to see that they are doing everything on their own. And it's nice that I got to be a part of that at the very beginning, and they are doing things that are much more complicated than what I first did over there. And I'm pretty proud to see them do those things.
So were you in your rental tuxedo at the hospital building those interfaces in a hurry?
It was funny. I said, well, all I have with me is a suit and shorts and t-shirts because I'm going out to the beach in California. And they said, buy clothes. We'll pay for work clothes. And so you guys paid for work clothes for me, and I jumped aboard because I didn't have any of that packed.
Awesome.